Hi, today I will be presenting one of the webinars that I attended, which was the impact of CSR on brand sales, and explain the findings the study revealed to explain why corporate social responsibility is essential for brand sales. And so to begin off, this webinar was presented by Dion Nickerson from Indiana University, as well as including the other authors who contributed to this research on my slide. And all the researchers indicated in finding a problem that there was a lack of articles in regards to corporate social responsibility and just how much companies were investing into CSR, which then led to how does this actually affect consumer response, aka brand sales, which then led to two research questions that the researchers formulated to help with their studies, which was one, does the effect carry depending on the type of CSR initiatives, or does the effect vary depending on CSR repetition and CSR focus? In their framework of their study, they collected both secondary data, which they just collected real world data to find what those data revealed about their study, as well as primary data by conducting a series of lab studies to replicate the similar effects in their secondary data and see if there were any extra or additional underlying motivations. The three types of CSR that the researchers focused on were corrective, compensating, and cultivating. Corrective addresses the harm to society and environment changes into their business practices, while compensating addresses those harm to society and environmental, but they don't necessarily make any actual changes into their business practices. And an example can be when Starbucks started donating or taking their paper cups into recycling centers, or just making that announcement for that. They're addressing the environmental impact that they make. However, they're not making any essential business changes into their business practices. For cultivating, they do not address any negative externalities, and this just essentially includes just philanthropy, meaning when brands just say they're doing, when brands just say that they are donating a portion of their revenue to a certain nonprofit organization. And so in their secondary data, what they did was they found 80 CSR press announcements for CPG brands, as well as sales data for 1 year before and 1 year after that announcement, as well as data on the CSR reputation and CSR focus on both social and environment. And what the secondary data studies revealed was that there was a positive increase for both corrective and compensating CSR initiatives. However, there was a negative effect or a decrease in sales for cultivating CSR initiatives. And why this might be is because brands who essentially engage in corrective and compensating actions, they take more responsibility, which lead them to being seen as more sincere than brands who just engage in cultivating, because cultivating essentially just means that they're going to just donate proceeds to a certain organization. Meanwhile, corrective and compensating allows for brands and companies to take more action and accountability on themselves to make change, which does lead to consumers to make them feel more sincere about their actions and what they're doing and the change that they're trying to make. An example could be Starbucks and the Black Lives Matter movement, when there was the whole situation with the two Black men who went into a Starbucks to try to go to a bathroom, but ended up getting arrested. And later, Starbucks then used their platform like Twitter and Instagram to address their support for Black Lives Matter. This made consumers feel that Starbucks was more sincere and were able to help increase their brand sales, as it showed that Starbucks was making the change and holding themselves accountable to the impact that they were making to their society, and that the platform that they have is immense in helping to create such change. And as shown in the graph, we can see that for cultivating, especially for social, there was a negative a decrease in sales change, which shows just how crucial it is for brands and consumers to take responsibility on their own instead of waiting to then just donate a proceed, as it makes them be more real and authentic. And in their experiment that they conducted in their lab, what they did was they got participants to see two fictional brand descriptions, both high and low, with high and low corporate social responsibility reputations, and then they were indicated where participants then indicated their purchase intentions for them, and then they were given 3 different types of corporate social responsibility initiatives. Like we mentioned before, the corrective, compensating, and cultivating. And then participants then rated the sincerity level of the brand's corporate social responsibility initiatives. And as we can see in their results, it really shows for corrective, there was a very high change in purchase intentions, especially for especially with companies with low CSR reputations, as there was a greater boost because it really just made them feel more sincere about their actions and them taking accountable for themselves. However, with compensating, there wasn't necessarily a big change. And what was really like cool to find that was mentioned in the webinar was that in corrective initiatives, the reason why high CSR reputation wasn't necessarily as high is because consumers actually already expect companies with high CSR reputations to already make the changes and address and take responsibility for the impacts that they make for both social and environmental impacts. For cultivating, there wasn't necessarily much of a difference between, as well as actually it was not statistically significant, which was really cool. And ultimately in their study, the key findings that they found were that, number one, consumers actually do not respond positively to every form of CSR, and that, which can include the reason why compensating and corrective were more higher, while cultivating was essentially an initiative that was very critical. And then for finding 2, CSR initiatives that seek to reduce a brand's own harm boost sales, while CSR actions focused on philanthropy lead to a slight drop in sales. And so basically what researchers in this webinar can take and the implications that they make is that brands should essentially strive to clean up their own mess before engaging in philanthropy, because it could be seen as insincere, as well as managers should consider engaging in CSR actions that cannot be clearly linked to reducing brands' harm on society or the environment. So thank you. That was my presentation on the findings that I've found from the study that was presented in the webinar and what I thought was really cool. And I thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.